We'll call the Willmar City Council meeting to order for Monday, December 4th. Roll call.
Mayor Calvin.
Here.
Councilmember Nelson. Christensen. Schwantes.
Aye, here.
Alvarado.
Here.
Osmus.
Here.
Maskey.
Here.
Plowman.
Here.
Fagerly.
Here.
7 present, 2 absent.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember Nelson had called and asked me for an excused absence, and my understanding is that you received a call from Mr. Christensen as well, Councilmember Christensen?
That is correct, Mayor.
Okay, I did not receive that notification, but that would be an approved absence for him as well, so. But he did not report that to me, so. Are there any other proposed additions or deletions to the agenda? Okay, we have 4 items we'd like to move forward. One is the sign agreement for Robbins Island, phased-in retirement option, the body cameras for the police department, and an update on our storm sewer system for the Western Interceptor. So those will go after item number 15 on the agenda, respectively numbered off. Anything else? With that, I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the agenda as amended. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That motion does carry. Opposed? That motion does carry. Next are consent items. Judy Thompson, our city clerk.
On the consent agenda this evening, we have for council's approval the city council minutes of November 20th, the Willmar Municipal Utilities minutes of November 27th, the Rice Memorial Hospital Board minutes of November 15th, a resolution to accept project number 1601 and authorize final payment, and the acceptance of the Human Rights Commission minutes of October 17th, Central Community Transit Operations Board minutes of November 28th, the Willmar Lakes Area Convention and Visitors Bureau Board minutes of October 17th, and the accounts receivable report through November 28, 2017.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the consent items. Discussion. Roll call.
Question.
I'm sorry, Councilman Rasmus.
Can I have H removed?
Yes. We will approve all items with the exception of H. Additional discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Schwantes.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Maskey.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion, that roll call passes. Next is accounts receivable report through November 28th. Councilmember Osmus.
Okay, on page 113 in our packet of the accounts receivable, under GB Lead Services LLC, it looks like there was some hazardous material waste disposal for $25,485 and decontamination of the building of $24,780. I'm guessing that's for the range, for the shooting range. And I was just wondering for a breakdown on that, were we anticipating those expenses? Or is that something that was in addition to, is that the removal of the blocks and the blocks that got replaced? Or what's the explanation on those?
Mr. Holland?
I think the short answer is yes. And just to elaborate, number one, no, that wasn't something unexpected. It was part of the bid process. And so, yes, it was the removal, and that includes, that hazmat material, the lead and so forth. And so that's part of the total cost. And so I want to say it was around $55,000, Sean, that total bid.
Yeah, for round numbers, that's correct.
Okay. Move to approve.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve item number H on the agenda. Discussion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion does carry. That didn't require a roll call because it was not a resolution. For those of you that watch the meeting on a regular basis and are wondering why I didn't do a roll call on that one. Next, we have our first public hearing, which is an ordinance amending rate charges by municipal utilities. Mr. John Herron. I'll open the public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Before you tonight, the Utility Commission is requesting that consideration is being given to amending the rates and charges by the Municipal Utilities Commission. This is a follow-up from a joint meeting that was held between the council and the commission. So in front of you, or before you tonight, you had the information, and I'll just run through the ordinance real quickly. Section 1 is our electric rates. There's no changes on the ordinance being proposed to our electric rates for or within this ordinance. Section 2, water rates. The water rates, what we are looking at, or what's being proposed, is a 5% increase for 2018 and an additional 5% for 2019, which is in Section 3. Section 4, summer rate definition, no change to Section 4. Section 5, our electric energy acquisition adjustment, no change to our energy acquisition adjustment. City franchise fee, Section 6, that is a new section to the ordinance. In the past, the city franchise fee was incorporated or encompassed within the rates. Based on the collaboration at the joint meeting, it's being proposed that is presented as a line item on the utility billing. In addition to that, as discussion took place today amongst staff between the city and utility, we're requesting that wastewater is scratched in Section 6, but the rest of the verbiage or language is appropriate. Section 7, the fixed cost fee. Presently, on everyone's utility bill, there is a billing charge, and we're requesting consideration be given to retitling that to fixed costs, as that better reflects what charges are part of that line item on the bill. And then Section 8 and 9 is the repealer and the effective date of the ordinance. With that said, I'd like to touch a little bit on where do our rates fall within the state with other utilities. I believe you have a handout that looks similar to this. First one that we'll touch on is the electric rates. Our electric rates, when you look at it, we have it highlighted where Willmar Municipal Utilities is at. We're about right in the middle, probably a little bit over the midpoint is where our rates are at within other municipals within the state. And on the water side, if you look at the next chart, we are near the lowest rates in the state, and with the 5% increase in 2018 and a 5% increase in 2019, we shift only one municipal higher, and that's making an assumption that the utilities or the cities listed on this sheet have no increases for this upcoming year. One other non-related item from the rate changes. I understand that the council has received, council members, I believe all of them, have received a letter from a concerned citizen regarding the calculation of wastewater charges. Little background on how wastewater charges are calculated. The wastewater charges are calculated by ordinance based on the consumption that's used for 5 months starting in November through March. Up to this point, our billing system that's used to calculate that or that we read with, we have 4 billing cycles within our system or our customer base based on the 4 weeks of the month. So it's very difficult, impossible for us to have or to follow the ordinance November 1st through March 30th. So depending on where the cycles fall, some might be 1 or 2 weeks off within that cycle. However, to address the concerned citizens' request to follow the ordinance with our new reading program that we implemented this summer, we will be able to follow the ordinance to the date, which is November 1st through March 30th, starting this coming April. So that question, concern should be addressed come this spring. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Mayor Calvin for questions.
Are you going to go over what the rate adjustments tonight? So that the public that's watching can kind of see what we're doing there? Basically, what we're doing is we're identifying out the city franchise, or the city payment in lieu of taxes.
Okay.
And that'll be the rate increase, correct?
Correct. Thank you, Mayor Calvin.
And this is on the electric I'm talking.
On electric, as we went through it, I stated that there's no changes to our stated rates for our electric charges, which is correct. However, when I was talking about Section 6 of the proposed ordinance that is in front of you or before you for consideration, I mentioned that the franchise fee that is within our rate structure or within our revenue that's collected will be line itemed on the utility bill as a city franchise fee. What that consists of, what the city franchise fee will consist of, is the cash payment to the city, which is, as our agreement states today, is $2,152,000. Street lighting costs, which is just shy of about $800,000. So that's going to be just short of $3 million is what will be collected through the city franchise fee. To expand on that a little bit further, as we talked about at the joint meeting, that fee will be offset to some degree with our energy acquisition costs. This year, we have months to go yet, but we are going to collect through the energy acquisition costs right around $1.2 million. Based on our budget projections for this upcoming year, our energy acquisition charge is estimated to be approximately $300,000. So there's going to be approximately, based on budgets, about a $900,000 reduction in our energy acquisition charge, which will offset some of the franchise fee costs that'll be on the customer's bill, and again, the customer being responsible for.
Thank you. Thanks for clarifying that. Anybody from the public that wishes to speak to the issue? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close the public hearing, bring it to the council table. Council, what's your wishes? We would need a motion to approve the ordinance amending the rates charged by municipal utilities as presented.
A motion to approve.
And Mr. Mayor, I apologize for interrupting members of the council. General Manager Herron had recommended an amendment to the ordinance as introduced at the previous meeting. And just to recap, that was to remove the reference to wastewater costs from the franchise fee calculation formula in Section 6 of the ordinance. So before you move to adopt the ordinance, I would recommend you move that amendment.
Would someone like to move that amendment to the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to remove the amendment talking about wastewater charges. Discussion. Councilmember Maskey.
City Attorney, in your estimation, is that change is not significant enough to have to put the ordinance out again for a second reading?
That's correct, Councilmember Meske. In talking with the general manager and the finance director, it sounds like that would have absolutely no impact on what a given customer would pay. It's kind of changes where the billing would come from, but that would not be a substantial change to the ordinance. It can still be adopted today.
Thanks.
Additional discussion. Seeing and hearing none, roll call to the amendment.
Councilmember Alvarado?
Aye.
Osmus?
Aye.
Maskey?
Aye.
Plowman?
Aye.
Fagerly?
Aye.
Schwantes?
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Next is an ordinance amending the rates charged by municipal utilities. Motion and second.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the ordinance amending the rates charged by municipal utilities. Discussion. Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question for Mr. Herring. Recently, kind of in the news, there's a little bit of talk about transition away from the coal to natural gas system, and looking long-term, more purchasing off of the grid. How do you think that's going to affect our standing and our ranking? I mean, we have this table where Willmar stands in terms of all these other cities purchasing more electricity off of the grid and per contractual agreement. How do you think that's going to affect us long-term, say 5 years out, 10 years out?
Thank you, Councilor Plowman. Where I see, as we go forward, our goal, the Utility Commission's goal, is to manage, hold, or actually reduce, depending on how you want to define reducing. If we can maintain our rates while other utilities possibly go up, that would be our goal. With what we're looking at, with some of the changes we have initiated, the one that everybody's probably very aware of is the decommissioning of our district heat. With the decommissioning of our district heat allows us opportunity to procure other power supply versus running our plant. In the past, over the last year, 2 years, as we've talked about the plant, it's costing us roughly 15 cents a kilowatt to produce power out of our power plant. So if we can replace that through other purchase power agreements, whatever they may look like, they may look similar to some of them we have. We're also exploring partnering up with another joint action agency or a joint action agency to get some economies of scale. So where what our power portfolio, supply portfolio will look like in a couple years, I'm not sure, but we are trying to position ourselves to stay very competitive, and on that listing that you have on the rankings, even to move up that rankings. So that would be our goal as we move forward.
Perfect, thank you. And thank you for addressing
Thank you.
that, the wastewater measuring over the winter. Thank you for addressing that item.
Well, you're welcome. And thank you for adopting the ordinance. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Anybody else that has comments? First off, I just want to make a comment here. I like the fact that you're calling out the intergovernmental transfer for what it is. There's a number of us on this council sitting at this table that wanted to have transparency in government. That's one piece of it, folks. That's one piece of allowing the public to know where their dollars are really going. And so when you brought this to me, I was very pleased that you had the foresight to think about that so that the consumer, the person that's actually using those energy sources, really know where their costs are going. So thank you for your leadership in making that happen. I know it wasn't easy for you. I know that you had a few sleepless nights over it, and some of the council did as well. The other thing that at the meeting that you told us, which I thought was very favorable, is that these rate requests increases were requested basically for the 2015 budget, and that didn't happen. So in 15 and 16 and 17, there weren't the increases that the rate study said we should have done. That's why we have to look at this increase now through the through the intergovernmental transfer. With that being said, you feel very confident that our rates are going to hold steady for quite some time, probably another 2 years, hopefully at least. And so with that being said, I want to commend you and your staff also for the hard work you've done on that as well. So that had we implemented those changes in 15 and 16 and 17, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing tonight. And so thank you very much for your leadership in making that happen. I'm not sure if you want to comment to that or not, but I just really appreciate your leadership that you're providing at the utility. You're doing a great job, so we appreciate that.
Thank you, Mayor Calvin.
Any additional discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Osmus.
Aye.
Meske.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
And that resolution passes, so the ordinance passed. Thank you, Mr. Herron. I know earlier Carol was here. There's Carol. Well, a couple of your commission are here, so commission members, thank you as well for the leadership that you provide to our city and the volunteer service that you give to us. You guys have had a lot on your plate here in the last 2 years, and you've really dug deep and gotten the job done, so thank you so much for your leadership. Appreciate that. So, and it's good to have a good general manager as well. That helps. I know Carol tells me that on a regular basis, so thank you so much for your leadership. Appreciate that. Okay, with that, we'll go to the Truth and Taxation hearing and setting the 2018 budget for the city. Mr. Steve Okens, our Finance Director.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the purpose for the meeting tonight is to gather public input. There's been a public notice sent out by the county auditor's office. This is part of the Truth in Taxation statute. The city charter also has a section that explains the budgeting process and a few of those items. Part of that public notice that citizens would have received in regards to their property tax statements included 3 major portions of their property tax. There's a fourth that's kind of a miscellaneous category, but the 3 primary ones are Candioi County, the City of Willmar, and Independent School District 347. Candioi County has held their public hearing. They held it on Thursday, November 30th. Tonight is the city's public hearing to gather input, and the school districts will be held next Monday on December 11th at 6 o'clock at the WEAC boardroom. That's all part of the state statute that requires public input and acknowledgement of property taxes and budgets for those governmental agencies. The timeline that the city has used, and it's somewhat driven by the Charter Section 5 that I mentioned earlier, is that in May, the budget calendar is established. The mayor, the administrator, and myself get together, put together a budget calendar, submit that to the council as well as the department directors. The department directors are then required to have their recommendations and requests in by July, giving the mayor the time between that and September when he has to submit, according to state statute again, by the end of September, to the council and setting a preliminary tax levy, which you did on September 12th. That preliminary tax levy was set at that time of $4,974,245. The process is that the council can lower that tax levy, but cannot raise it after it's set at that preliminary section. The action tonight, Mr. Mayor, is to review the tax levy again, and also to discuss the total budget that's proposed and has been discussed by the council in a number of meetings. The tax levy that is before you tonight is again $4,974,245. This is approximately $144,000 and change above what was certified in 2017. During those budget meetings, we had some comparative data that we supplied to the council in 2006, if I could have that brought up on the board. The city has historically compared our tax rate as well as the overall tax rate with other regional centers. These regional centers are from the League of Minnesota Cities that are throughout the state. There are 19 of them. You'll see on this chart that there are a number of other communities, and we've talked about this in our public hearing, public meetings, that there are other regional centers that also have a local option sales tax. We do not. But you'll see there that the city's tax rate in these other regional centers is the lowest for the city portion. We have received additional information today from the county auditor. These rates are in 2016. The rates were slightly higher in 2017. The proposed rates that the $4.9 million will generate are slightly less than they are for the city in 2017. The reasons for that, as you remember we discussed in our hearings, is that we have new construction going on in the community, which the $144,000 is a 3% increase on the dollar amount levy. It is not a 3% increase on the rate. And some of the reasons that it does not apply to the rate is the new construction that I just mentioned. We have a number of new construction. In our meetings, we were projecting that 3% increase on the dollar amount would only amount to approximately about a 1% increase on the rate. The new information that we've had today is that the council took action in May and June on a rural service district rate, and that is where the agricultural property in the community was being taxed at a much lower rate. It had been set, I believe, like in 1968, and the county notified the city that we should evaluate that, and the council did. The council took action to set that tax rate for the rural service district. It was at 1%, I believe. They set it as the surrounding township rate, so that the agricultural property in the corporate city limits is then set at the same tax rate as the surrounding township or agricultural property. Those two factors, Mr. Mayor, contribute to why a 3% increase on the dollar amount is accounting for the rate staying relatively flat. So you have the new property tax base being added and a shifting from residential, commercial, industrial to the agricultural property.
Mr. Oakland, just a question on that. The levy still increases by the 3 points, though, correct?
The dollar amount still increases by the 3%, which is the $144,000. That's correct. And that's the action for tonight, or the resolution before you tonight. The second resolution, Mr. Mayor, would be to then adopt the proposed budget that's been discussed. The items in the proposed budget total of $46.2 million. This is a $13 million increase. That $13 million increase is directly attributable to the capital projects that have been discussed and highlighted, those being the City Hall/Community Center, the R22 ice plant at the Civic Center. Those are the major capital that would account for that. Those are only being proposed at this time. Future discussion will take place when financing and other detailed information is discussed. And so at this point, it is only proposed. The debt service is the other $3 million. A large portion of that is for the waste treatment plant debt service that is starting to kick in due to the expansion and the relocation of the waste treatment plant. Those are the two major factors. The operating budget of that $46 million for 2018 is $14.5 million. In 17, it was $14.3 million, roughly a $200,000 increase, or a 1.6% projected increase on the general operating budget for the city. Mr. Mayor, you have two resolutions before you tonight. The first resolution would be to set the levy at $4.9 million. The second resolution would be to set the 2018 proposed budget at $46.2 million. If the council chooses to and does not take action on those two resolutions, you would need to extend the hearing until our recommendation would be the next council meeting of December 18th. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. The public is invited to speak at this point. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on either the levy or the total operating budget of the city? You want to come to the mic, please? You have to come to the mic. You got to come to the mic. You got to state your name and address for the record, please.
This is Joe Ferncase. I'm from 1004 Southeast 9th Street, and then we're ready to pay $2,200 for our house, and we live at kitty corner from Besnia. Our neighbor's paying $1,700 for his house. He's got two apartments underneath there. I talked to Randy today about how can he have two apartments underneath us, and stuff. I've talked to him several times, and then he's paying cheaper taxes than I am, and I just, no, they didn't raise taxes, hell with that.
Mr. Oakins, you want to address that? I think the question is that he's paying a higher tax than his neighbor. I don't know what the apartments play into it, but Mr. Wilkins?
Mr. Mayor, I wouldn't be able to directly answer that without knowing the valuations of the properties. The valuations of the properties would drive what the property taxes that the individuals are paying for it. Not only the values of the properties, but maybe the classification of those properties as well. Those questions and answers are usually addressed at the Board of Review when the valuations, the citizens are given the opportunity to question their valuations of the property.
Thank you. Anybody else that wishes to speak to the budget?
I talked to Randy today and stuff.
You have to come to the mic if you wish to speak, sir.
I talked to Randy today and stuff. He has 2 apartments underneath his house. He gets resident, he doesn't have to pay, he's got his homestead credit and stuff, on there. And that ain't right, It just,
Okay, what was recommended is that if you wish to contest that, you would need to go to the Board of Equalization.
And I've been talking about this for over a year, and he's supposed to take care of that stuff. That's his job.
That's not Mr. Cardell's job. That's the assessing office over at the county.
I talked to them too, and they sit there and said, talk to Randy.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public that wishes to speak? Seeing and hearing no further comment, the desire of the council at the work session a week ago tonight was to move the discussion of adopting the levy and the budget to the meeting of the 18th. We have 2 council members that are not here this evening, and I would recommend that we leave the public comment period open and that we move the discussion to the meeting of December 12th. Is there opposition to that? The other thing would be is if the council wanted to make a motion to close the public hearing. So we should move it to December 18th. I believe I did that correct, right, Mr. Scott?
Correct. We all have noted that we will be continuing the public hearing until December 18th.
So the public hearing will continue on the budget and the levy until December 18th, when we will address it again as a full council. Moving to the next item on the agenda, which is recognition of Megan DeShepper. Mr. Bruce Peterson.
Mayor Kelvin, members of the council, I'd like to ask Megan to come up to the podium. Welcome. I'm just going to say a couple words about Megan. Megan was hired 15 years ago by the city of Willmar. She was the first and only person to hold the position of staff planner with the city of Willmar. I think she has set a standard that will be difficult for future employees to match, and she's one of these people that has shown up every day with a smile on her face. She's learned so much, she's matured so much in the position and given so much back to that position that saying thank you to Megan is never enough. She's a friend of everyone, and I've not heard one disparaging word about Megan in 15 years. But then I don't talk to her family. So anyway. But I'd just like to say thank you, Megan, for the years of service, and I'd like to offer you this certificate of appreciation from the mayor, council, and staff. Thank you.
You're not going to get off quite that easy. I know Mr. Holland wants to say a few words, and then I want to say a few words as well, so.
I just want to say that I don't know how she's worked here 15 years, because she's only 25 years old. So I was shocked when I found out how long she had been here with us. But no, I just wanted to say it's been a pleasure working with her. And we had an airport project this year, and her and I went out there on several occasions to examine the progress on that. And she's a true professional, and I want to congratulate her on her new job and her new adventure with MDOT. And so I appreciate everything that she's done here. So thank you.
Thank you, Megan. On behalf of the mayor's office, I want to also thank you for your years of service. And I remember when you started. And, we had a lot of great times. You've served on a lot of different committees within the city other than as city planner. But the thing that I want to just echo is what, Mr. Peterson said, is that any task that was given to you, you did well, you did it above the expectation level, and you were always willing to step up and do whatever needed to be done. And that's most evident by your willingness to take on the airport manager duties, which did not fall under your realm of expertise. And you took the time yourself to learn those requirements, and we have a better airport today because of your vision and your leadership in that area. So you're going to be greatly missed. It's a huge loss for the city to see you go, but for the Minnesota Department of Transportation, they've got a very good person coming to them. So thank you again for the years of service, and you will be greatly missed. Would you like to make any comments?
Just to say thank you.
Okay. Anybody from the council that wishes to make any additional comments? Thank you very much for your service. The next item on the agenda is the City Council Open Forum. We have five citizens who have asked to speak this evening. How we do this is that we have a timer up that you'll see count down. At the end of that, there will be just a little buzz so that you know that the time has expired. At that time, we wish you to complete the sentence you're on or the thought that you're on, and then excuse yourself at that time. It is the policy and the practice of the council that the council does not respond to comments that are made during the open forum. If there's a clarifying question that's needed, we'll ask that question, but we ask that our city clerk take down the name and address and phone number, and we have all of that for everybody who'll be presenting this evening, so that if there's any follow-ups that can be done at that time. So with that, we'll start with Mr. John Burns.
I would ask that Mr. Larson go ahead of me.
Mr. Joe Fernkus.
Okay, I'll Larson go first.
Mr. Ben Larson.
My name is Ben Larson. I'm here to address Councilman Christensen supporting racist posts on Facebook. Ron hit the like button on posts that talked about Somali and Mexican immigrants having lower IQs, being crime and filth ridden, and he also said that he also showed support for a post that talked about Somali and Muslim people wanting us dead. This is unbecoming of a councilman, and I was going to come here and ask Ron to resign tonight, but I got coffee with his wife yesterday, so I'd like to propose two paths that I think Ron can take. I'll quote Janine when she said that Ron is not a racist. So path A would be, if he's not racist, I think he should denounce these posts publicly, say that they're wrong, say that his support for them was wrong, and then ask for forgiveness from the public. And then he should also take actions to mend the hurt that he has caused in this community. That should be easy if what she says is true. Path B, I think he should resign if he can't do that. It's just, it tears this community apart. He shouldn't be a leader if he really believes those things. And I'll close with Martin Luther King, in his letter from Birmingham jail, said, in this generation, we will not have to repent merely for the hateful words and actions of the bad people, but also for the silence of the good people. And I, for one, cannot be silent on this issue, and I hope others will join me. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Next, Mr. John Burns.
I'm John Burns, 327, 317 Northwest 7th Street here in Willmar. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I was shocked when I read in the local newspaper of the December 2nd and 3rd about some of the statements that had been made against our fellow citizens of Willmar based on race, ethnicity, religion. I'm a proud Irish American. All of my ancestors came from Ireland, and they didn't come from the right side of the line. They were the Irish Catholics, the wild kind. They were beyond the pale. And so, when I read those remarks, I thought every last one of them would apply to my people. And they, in the day, that's exactly what happened. Every one of them. Every one of them. You know, dirty, ignorant, fit only to do the most menial tasks. They're going to bring the Pope over, and he'll be taking over the country. That was said. It was said in very respectable circles back then. And, you know, where it all ended up, I remember my grandmother telling me what it's like to have a Klan cross burned in front of the house where she and my relatives were gathered for a birthday party. And can you imagine what that feels like? And then they went out the next morning and they found the newspapers that had been used to accelerate the flames. And they had the names of the addressees of those newspapers. And they were prominent business people and bankers. And so they could go into Waseca and deal with those people and look them in the eye. I guess in their subordinate positions, maybe they never brought it up. I don't know. In short, every one of those slurs that were used against Somalis, Muslims, to a lesser extent Latinos, would apply to my people. It's an old, old story that's been going on for the beginning of history in this country. Every wave that comes in, it was the Irish, it was the Jews, it was the Italians, the Hispanics, all of them. All of them have suffered through the same thing, even though, you know, in our sacred documents we say we believe that all men are created equal. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Ben Larson, you didn't give your address, so with your permission, I'll go ahead and give your address. Address of 1412 6th Street Southwest. Thank you. Next, Mr. Joe Fernkus.
I ain't been to one of these meetings before, so.
So name and address, please.
1004 Southeast 9th Street, Willmar, Minnesota, of course, and stuff.
Name?
I just got a.
Your name, please?
Joe Fernkus.
Thank you.
You know, and stuff, you know. I got a question to ask Larson here.
No, you address the council, you don't ask members of the committee, you don't ask members of the audience, you address the council.
I'd like to ask him a question of there's weed control out there at the Midwest, you know, where they grow their vegetables. If it was between 1 and 10, 1 being no weeds and 10 being a lot of weeds, what that would be, but he won't give me an answer, I'm sure, on that and stuff, you know. But I just, I'm tired of them Somalians too in this town. They're taking over the whole damn town, and they're downtown Willmar, beautiful downtown Willmar, my rear end, you know, and stuff. You guys got to get your blinders off. Got to quit squinting your eyes. You got to start figuring this stuff out. They're chasing girls down, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed girls down Willmar, 3, 4 Somalians at a time, chase them down, call them every name in the book. They take in Walmart, they take a dump right in the aisle, the women do, and then they walk away. They do it at the clinics, and I've seen this, I witnessed it and stuff, you know, and I just, they're very offending. I was at a cell phone place one day. 5 of us were in there, 2 were talking to the tenants. 3 of us were standing around there just mingling, you know, and stuff, whatever. And then 2 Somalian guys walked in the door and put their hands like this and said they demand service right now. This has got to change. You guys got to open up your eyes. I'm telling you right now, you boys better open up your eyes and girls, because you have no idea what's coming down the tube here. I'm an American soldier, and I've been around. I know a lot. I know a lot what's going on with the Somalia city, and just, it's no good. Go downtown Willmar, they won't get out of your way. 600 of them some nights are sitting downtown Willmar on the main street. I don't go down to Willmar. I stay away from as much as I can. I won't go to SA. I won't go to Walmart. I won't go to downtown Willmar because they're thick as hair in a dog. You can't swing a dead cat downtown Willmar without hitting a smiley. And that's just all I got to say.
Next is Mr. Bob Score.
Bob Score, 617 Southwest 14th Street. I'm back. You know, first I'm going to start out with something a little different here. Why is the south wind turbine down again? I saw it was down all weekend here. And when I got here tonight, I got a call from somebody saying that 2 students were sent home due to tuberculosis. Kind of like Joe said, you know, everybody wants to talk about Ron here, but we know there's an issue in town. And this Islamophobic word needs to change, because tell me, really, what is it? And why is it so un-American to be an American? I'm damn proud to be an American. I've been in this area for 65 years. I've seen our town go down the tubes. Everybody has their opinion, but we can't agree to disagree, and that's a problem. And if Ron Christensen gets penalized for liking somebody's posts on Facebook, isn't that what you're supposed to do, is either like or dislike, but you're going to call him a racist because of that? I've known Ron all my life. We grew up since we were little kids. We played rock and roll together. We hunted together. We did a lot of things. And he is not racist. He's just a proud American. But when I come back and see nothing's changed in little Mogadishu here, and I use that word because that's what's been in the paper in the past, AKA Willmar, when I got home and read that online article against Mr. Christensen, I was just blown away. I was going to drill a lot of you guys on something. I was really torqued today and yesterday, but I'm not going to do that, because then I drop my standards down to you guys, and I can't do that tonight. But Ron has been voted in 6 times, 24 years, more than all of you guys except Rick, mayor included. He must have did something right. And I don't think he's ever voted against any minority issue that has gone defunct because of Ron. And as Mr. Larson says, dead weight, he's only one guy. You guys got him outgunned every time. I don't know what you're worried about Ron for. I just hope you guys can change stuff, but Willmar needs to change. I don't have time to get in everything I wanted to say, but hey, I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Mr. Edward Peterson.
Got that right. Ron's a good friend of mine.
Mr. Peterson, I don't have your address. If you give me your address too, please.
P.O. Box 3.
Need your street address. Your street address?
342 South 4th.
Go ahead.
I would like to stand up for Ron Christensen as well, but I have some questions for Ron back there.
Address the council, please.
What?
Address the council, please.
Well, I am. Does he get up so he can answer my question?
No.
Why not?
Because he's already spoke.
Well, he hasn't answered my question. I would like to know how old he is, what he does for a living, and how he can, in his hypocritical way, draw the conclusions that he does about Ron Christensen. Has he ever served in the military? I doubt it. And I can bet you he's probably a Democrat. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Next, we have consideration of a resolution authorizing Cornerstone Construction to repair water-damaged areas of the City Hall. Our City Clerk, Judy Thompson.
Okay, on October 15th, we had a water leak that occurred at the city office building, necessitating repairs needed to restore the areas affected. 2 bids were received for the necessary repairs, and Cornerstone Construction Services provided the low bid. The city's insurance agent from the League of Minnesota Cities has approved and authorized Cornerstone Construction Services to proceed with the necessary repairs.
So we have in front of us this consideration of repairs to the city office building for water damage. Recommended is a resolution authorizing the mayor and city administrator to enter into the agreement with Cornerstone Construction for these services. Is there a motion to?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. Seeing and hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Meske.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
The resolution passes. 5-minute recess. Next is the city toll bids and rate changes. Actually, we'll go to the next item on the agenda. We'll set a introduction of an ordinance allowing for participation on the Rice Memorial Hospital Board. Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. After approving the affiliation for the hospital with Centricare Health and Caris Health LLC at last meeting on November 20th, this is a follow-up item to carry out that affiliation. The affiliation called for local representation on the Caris board, which will be operating and managing the hospital. It provided for 2 local appointees on the Centricare board, and the flip side of that is it called for representation on the Rice Memorial Hospital board by both CEOs of Caris, so that would be one from Rice and one from ACMC, as well as 2 appointees to the board by Centricare. All 4 of those new appointees to the board would be non-voting members, essentially observers on the board, reporting back to their respective entities. Under the charter, it is permissible to make this arrangement, but it has to be done by ordinance. So you have an ordinance before you today. The recommendation is that you introduce that ordinance and set a public hearing for the December 18th meeting.
Council?
I'll introduce that motion.
Motion been made and seconded to introduce an ordinance and set a public hearing for December 18th, allowing participation on the Rice Memorial Hospital Board. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion does carry. Next, Chief Felt will have the toll contract award. Chief Felt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The item before you tonight is the request to adopt the 2018-2019 city toll bid and to set a new collected toll fee rate for the city of Willmar. The last toll bid was for 2 years, also from 2016 and 17. This one expires, of course, the end of December. Requests for bids from all local toll agencies were sent out, and the city of Willmar only received one bid for towing. That was from Ed Service Center in Willmar. There was a substantial increase from the past tow bids, so this necessitated a change in the collected toll rate there. So our staff put together some potential rates that could be charged for the tows. Those are included in your packet. The recommendation here is to accept the tow bid from Ed Service Center for 2018 and 19 and change the collected tow fee to $175 for regular and snow emergency tows and $230 for accident-related tows.
Council?
So moved. Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the recommendation of staff for the toll bids being awarded to Ed Service Center. Discussion. Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Felt or Mr. Administrator, I had a question regarding the bid process, the RFP or RFQ process. When these go out, how are the bids advertised, or the requests for a bid, rather?
Chief Felt?
The letters were sent to all the local tow agencies. I believe it was within 10 or 15 miles from the city of Willmar, to all the known tow agencies, and information and requests for bids were sent out that way.
Perfect. So they are notified directly?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Additional discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Plowman.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Metzke.
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Next is the firefighter and fire officer pay. Chief Felt. I'm sorry, Chief Hansen. I seen the mic in front of him when I looked up, and I just assumed he was talking again, so. Chief Hansen.
All right, how about now? Here we go. All right, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, before you is the consideration of a raise to the firefighter and fire officer wages. We did have this discussion 2 weeks ago in work session, and you made some recommendations. Those recommendations were followed. So I I'm asking you to consider a 10% raise for the firefighters and fire officers, as we discussed prior.
Council?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the firefighter and fire officer compensation increases. Discussion. Councilmember Fagerly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, are you at full force now, or one just resigned? Indeed, they moved?
That is correct. We actually are hiring 2. They start next Wednesday, but that still only brings us up to 39. We would have been at full force. So we're looking at maybe adding that additional person to get up to 40 mid-September-ish next year.
Okay. Is this going to help with recruiting then, or it still seems kind of low to me?
I think it'll help a little bit. Most of the people that we talk to or recruit don't necessarily talk about the money aspect until afterwards. But I think now this may help a little bit, get a few more people to apply.
Okay. And they still get the retirement
That is correct, yes.
fund, so, okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Osmus.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we had a lot of this discussion 2 weeks ago, but
I was gone.
Oh, okay. No, I was going to agree with Mr. Fagerly that we have a great department. They're volunteers that we want to encourage more people to sign up. They have to leave their families, leave their jobs, and we want to make sure that we continue to be able to recruit and keep our volunteer force at full strength. So I'm very in favor of this pay raise, and as we stated a couple of weeks ago, hopefully we're not waiting 9 years before we address it again.
No, we will review that every year. It'll be an annual review.
Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment after hearing Chief Hansen speak. What a cool comment to hear that discussion of pay or money is kind of a afterthought, especially when talking about our emergency service providers, because our services here are exceptional, call times are great, and so to hear a comment like that, like the money's talked about, like it's an afterthought, it's more about the actual service. For a community our size, that's pretty cool, and I think at least myself, and I think I probably speak for the council, that makes us proud. Thank you.
So the motion in front of the council is to approve the pay recommendations as presented by Chief Hansen. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion does carry. Next is consideration of a resolution acknowledging the Robbins Island Destination Playground donation. Robert Scott, our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. The Willmar Area Community Foundation has been administering the Robbins Island Park Fund. They've been supporting the Destination Playground project that was completed at the Robbins Island Park earlier this year. They've made a series of donations and coordinated donations of in-kind services that completely supported that project, and they are ready to make I believe this is the 7th donation, this one in the amount of $63,000, again to pay for expenses incurred by the city as a result of that Destination Playground project. If my math is correct, the total amount donated to date, including the $63,000 donation, is $641,000 now, plus significant in-kind donations as well. By statute, you have to approve and accept the donation by resolution. The resolution must receive a 2/3 vote of all members of the council, which means it needs 6 votes from council members tonight to pass. The recommendation is that the council approve the resolution.
So moved. Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the 7th donation in the amount of $63,000, making the total donated amount to date of $641,000 plus in-kind donations for the Destination Playground. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Maskey.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
And that resolution passes as well. Next is a item moved forward from our work session on the Robbins Island sign. Steve Brizendine, our Community Ed and Rec Director.
Mayor Calvin, members of the council, before you is a mock of a Robbins Island Regional Park sign element that we would like to incorporate into a larger entrance refurbishing reclamation project at Robbins Island. The Willmar Rotary Club, in conjunction with the efforts of Rockin' Robbins, has dedicated funds to create a new entrance into Robbins Island, and the signage in front of you is a portion of that project. We've had conversations with vendors who are going to give us some good prices on some work at that facility. So in addition to the signage, you'll see landscaping, you'll see some flags and new flag poles, and then there will be a recognition sign of the Rotary Club as well. So our hope is that the council will approve the concept of the new design of signage for Robbins Island Regional Park.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve replacing the Robbins Island Park sign as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the replacement of the Robbins Island sign with the donations and funds as explained by Mr. Brizendine. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Schwantes?
Aye.
Alvarado?
Aye.
Osmus?
Aye.
Maskey?
Aye.
Plowman?
Aye.
Fagerly?
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Next is phased-in retirement option through PERA. Mr. Bruce Peterson.
So, at the work session, we discussed the PERA phased retirement option, which would allow the council to enter into an agreement with a retiring employee for continued service to the city for a period or for amount of time not to exceed 1,044 hours per year. It was noted that there are some real financial benefits to putting this program in place for employees, and it certainly is a good transition tool and a good succession planning tool for the city to use. It's a tool that is at the discretion of the council, who gets it, how long they get it, and what they are paid under the contract are all negotiated by the council on a case-by-case basis. And it's a recommendation of staff that the council enter into that or authorize the administrator to enter into the PERA phased retirement option program.
I just want a clarification here. You'd stated in your comments that the council would negotiate those amounts. I believe those amounts would be negotiated by the administrator, correct? And then
They would be done on a case-by-case basis, not by the council. That's
correct, case-by-case basis and brought through the administrator back to the council.
Yes.
That was my understanding of how it was going to happen. What are our wishes?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the phased retirement option agreement with PERA as clarified.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. That motion does carry. Next is a presentation from our police chief in regards to body cams. Chief Felt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The item before you for consideration tonight was brought over from the work session. In that session, the request was for approving the purchase of 12 body cameras in the quoted amount of $16,054. After further discussion from that work session, the request is now to have a new quote for the 24 body cameras. We were going to fund half this year, half next year, and the request is now to fund all body camera purchases in 2017. An estimated amount, just by doubling it, would be $32,108.
Correct, and take the additional funding out of PIR.
And take the additional funding out of PIR, correct.
Correct. Mr. Okins, that's correct, right? That's the motion
I'll
in front of
introduce
us?
that motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Councilmember Fagerly.
You're still going to try to get a better quote, though.
Yes, in the words of Chief Cull said, I'll ask them to sharpen their pencil.
Thanks.
Those are good words. Additional discussion. This is spending money, so a resolution. Roll call.
Councilmember Alvarado.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Maskey.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Next item is the work to do on the storm sewer. Mr. Christensen, our Public Works Director.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Mayor, members of the council, as discussed in the work session, this is the, as promised, Phase 1 of the Western Interceptor Storm Sewer that will effectively connect the ponds near the south side of Baker Field, where the Stingers play, to the outfall and eventually into Hawk Creek. The proposal is to award the design services, preliminary engineering and final design, bidding, construction services, and project management to Bolton and Mink for $169,890, and to authorize signatures on the Phase 1 of this project.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve improvements to our stormwater system, Phase 1, design and construction, engineering services to Bolton and Mink. Discussion. Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question for Mr. Christensen. I apologize I didn't ask this during the work session. Just approximately, maybe this is good for the general public too, approximately how many feet distance is that?
That's a great question. I'm going to say it's about 1.5 miles.
About 1.5 miles? Okay. Thank you.
Additional comments? So again, this will be approving Phase 1 for sewer design, $169,800 to Bolton and Mink. Roll call.
Councilmember Osmus.
Aye.
Maskey.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Schwantes.
Aye.
Alvarado.
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes as well. Next on,
Mr. Fagerly?
I'm sorry, Mr. Fager?
I say yes too, Judy. It's okay.
Sorry, I checked you and I forgot to call you. Sorry.
Councilmember Fager? The resolution passes. Mr. Holland, City Administrator comments.
Mayor and council, just a few comments. First of all, I want to offer some praise to Chief Felt tonight in partnership with the mayor, so I didn't want to be left out. But no, seriously, I talked to him a few weeks ago, and he talked to me about the Shop with Cop program. It's a program that's around America. It's not new, but he sent me a picture, and we have a great participation rate among our police officers. We have a great participation within our community. And just looking at the picture, you could see the pride, and the sheriff's department also participated. I did see a few sheriff's officers there, right? And the pride in everyone's face. And so I want to congratulate them on taking the kids out to Walmart this weekend and shopping with them. And we're going to put that picture on our Facebook and our webpage. And I'm just delighted to, another program. I would say that my observation, the police department is leading the way in the organization with some of these public events over the last 6 months. And so I really appreciate that, because some police departments are reluctant to get out there and to engage in the community. Second of all, I want to say, again, I'm pleased to recognize Megan tonight. We will also try to get that picture of her in the newspaper and on our website and on Facebook to show our appreciation. And someone mentioned tonight about how we can recruit and hire people. Well, that's how you do it, is by recognizing the employees for their good work. And people see that, and they hear that, and that's how you get people to come to work for you, is by recognizing them. It's not always about the pay, but it's acknowledging the good work that they do. And, we're sorry to lose Megan, but obviously I'm always supportive of people moving up in their career. So congratulations to her, and we will do our best to find another great candidate. So I just wanted to bring out those couple of things, and we will just, continue to recognize people, and I've told staff, as we hire a new planner, a new engineer, a new building inspector this year, we're going to start bringing them to the city council, and we're going to introduce them to the city council, and we're going to introduce them to the community, and we'll try to get them on our webpage and the newspaper as well. So we're going to try to do a better job doing that this next year. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And thank you for your leadership this past 2 weeks. It's been tough. We've had a tough road to hoe with the budget and additional meetings in there, and so thank you for your continued leadership. And I've got to give kudos to the fire department. I always tell people that the fire department, each firefighter saves you between $54,000 and $56,000 a year if you had to have a full-time fire department. And so, the police department does pretty good, but those guys in red do pretty good too. So kudos to you, Chief Hansen, for the work you're doing over there at the fire department. So keep up the good work, and make sure you go back and tell your firefighters how much we do appreciate them. In front of each of your workstations are open vacancies for boards and commissions with the city of Willmar. If you have people you would like to recommend for that, this was emailed out to you last week as well. But I will be bringing the recommendations for your approval to the next council meeting on the 18th. And so we do have some people that are interested in serving in these positions, but I want the council to have the opportunity to recommend somebody. To this point, I have not had any recommendations come from council. So over the past 2 years, this being the third year, I've always asked for that, but it's slow coming. So if you have recommendations for these positions, please get them to us so that we can fill those spots. The other people all received letters, which I forwarded to you as well about 2 months ago through Janelle, and those people were all asked to re-up, and these are the people that did not re-up. So municipal utilities, we had a resignation there, and that's where we have an opening there. The other thing that's going on in our community right now is Celebrate the Light of the World out at the Kuzman's property. And they've been doing it for 10 years. I've been meeting with Mr. Kuzman and Dave Baker about bringing this project to Robbins Island. And they have met with city staff. And there are some obstacles that we have to overcome to make this happen. The Rotary clubs are currently talking with the Kuzmans as well. But I would like the councils to start considering that if we can bring this to Robbins Island, it's another gem in the toolbox for our community. It's a great project. There's good things that have come out of it. The Rotary clubs are looking at how they can do that. I will tell you the number one concern is the cross and how that has that religious affiliation at Robbins Island. But I want to remind council, and I want to remind our public, that other religious agencies also do use that space. And so this is, we're a Christian nation, and I think that this would be something that could be done respectfully. The Kuzmans have offered to donate all of their equipment, plus their expertise in helping us get this set up, so it wouldn't be just something that we would just be given with no input. And so I certainly would like us, Mr. Holland, to get this on an agenda to talk about it at a work session coming up. I mean, it's not January, that's what I'm talking, but, February, March timeframe, or maybe we even bring it to our retreat. But let's just put that down on a list to make sure we bring that back. So that's some really good things happening. And with that, that will conclude our mayor's comments. Announcements from the council, and I'm not sure where I'm supposed to start, so Julie, I'm going to start with you. Council Member Osmus.
I don't believe I have anything.
Thank you.
I'm not going to pretend that I didn't hear a lot of hateful words in this chambers, and I know that you've said we don't like to respond. I didn't respond directly to people as they spoke this evening, However, I was quoted recently in the, for a lack of a better term, Facebook conspiracy, if you will, and saying that comments were hurtful and divisive and unacceptable. And that was my opinion, and it is still my opinion. And I heard things this evening that were hurtful and divisive to members of our community. And so I'm compelled to elaborate a little bit on the things that we talked about at the Human Rights Commission. We heard concerns very similar to what you heard this evening, and the Human Rights Commission came to the conclusion that although there was nothing that was wrong policy-wise with the comments that were made, any council member can have an opinion, and that is what Councilmember Christensen had, was an opinion. So we did not act as a Human Rights Commission regardless of what others may believe, because there was no violation of any human rights policy. However, I did say that when you do that as a public official, you invite response like you heard this evening from people. Constituents also have that right, and that open debate is part of the process of politics. And when you open up that door, you never know what's going to walk through it. And what we've seen tonight is an example of what can walk through that. However, if we sit on this council, we have to make sure that Willmar stays as an inviting community for all of its residents. And I will continue to stand for that regardless of what kind of stuff comes from the underbelly of the city. And so I appreciate people being part of that process. I am very glad to hear that Mr. Larson met with Ron's wife, and they're going to try to work things out. I think that is exactly what's supposed to happen. But to sit back and pretend that I did not hear those words in this chambers, I cannot do that. And so I thank you for the opportunity to say some things here at the end.
Thank you, Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going to segue onto that. I think just to put it in plain English, I guess I'm a big fan of diplomacy. I love varied opinions. I love debate. And I think we, as a council, I think we've done a good job so far this year. In fact, I think we've done a great job at having respectful debate and discourse. And as these debates go on in our community, I think if everybody can just put a little or a lot of effort into maintaining good, solid, respectful debate, there's challenges in every community, every growing community that has great things happening. There's going to be discourse, and there's going to be some challenges in terms of opinions for what's good, what's reasonable, what's right, what's wrong, and whatnot. That healthy discourse is great for a community, and so I would urge everybody to maintain that. But I think we as a council, we can lead the way by making sure that happens, and I hope that is what happens. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Fagerly.
I have nothing.
Councilmember Schwantes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a great community. I love living in Willmar and the Willmar Lakes area, and I would like to challenge everyone this holiday season as you're out and about and doing your shopping to say a kind word and to give a smile and show this community, show the world what kind of people we really are. And no matter how much change you have in your pocket, you can always afford a smile and a kind word. So that's my challenge to everyone.
Thank you. Councilmember Alvarado.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the things I heard when I was campaigning earlier, I guess about a year ago now, a very successful business person in the downtown said these words: "I love my neighbor. I love my neighbors." And she was talking about her downtown neighbors. And to me, that's powerful. That's powerful. And I think we have to remember those 4 words: "I love my neighbors," and begin to know who our neighbors are. And if we do that, we have a great community now. We're going to have a greater community once we start working more and more together. I'm excited about the downtown. I'm excited about what's happening in Willmar. We have one of the things that people want to do is have new experiences. They want to experience everything. We've got that here in Willmar, Minnesota. We have to enjoy it, make, and promote that. We're a lot popcorn. We're just going to pop. So I'm pretty excited about that, and I like the positive energy on the council, and thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. There's nothing else to come before the council. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We are adjourned.
Yes.